One company right now that's doing fantastic job updating their entire lineup into a much more modern and elegant, classy, confident look is definitely Chevy. So they just unveiled the 2024 Chevy Traverse, and the same goes for this update right here. It's a beautiful design. I'm gonna show you exactly why when we compare it to the 2021 model from a front, side, rear, the interior. And they also have a brand new Z71 model that is the off-road version, looking very cool. But before we jump into Photoshop, let's have a look here, at the spec and tech here. Let's get to know this new 2024 Chevy Traverse a little better from this article by Car and Driver. So, the interior gets a major overhaul as well. So you have a 17.7-inch infotainment display as standard these days. I'm not sure how big we can make the infotainment screen until it starts to get a little ridiculous, but I think 17.7 inches is probably there, borderline ridiculous, but the integration, we're gonna talk more about that in a second. The integration is actually really good. Well done, the interior designers there. The V6 engine has been swapped out for a new turbocharged 2.5 liter inline 4, producing 315 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. And you have the new Z71 off-road trim, which features a unique all-wheel drive system, Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tires, and a redesigned front bumpers with some skid plates up there. Very cool design. So in the interior here, the design is centered around a new standard 17.7-inch touchscreen, a huge upgrade over the 7 and 8-inch. It's 10 inches more in screen size for the infotainment screen for the 2024 model. But the good news is, this is what I love about Chevy. They still have this big 18 almost inch screen, but they kept the physical controls for volume and the climate control system. That is absolutely perfect, in addition to the beautiful integration of these big screens. More on that in a minute. An 11-inch digital gauge cluster and 6 USB ports are standard, so you don't have to worry about running out of juice on any of your 32 devices that you're probably gonna bring along these days. The base LS trim comes standards in 8-passenger configuration, also offered on the LT, the Z71, and the top-of-the-line RS. The RS looks really good. That's the one I'm going to use to compare to the old one in this case. The Z71 and the RS are exclusively 7-seaters due to the second row captain's chair. So very fancy there by Chevy. The RS model also brings black 22-inch wheels, blacked out exterior trim, a 3-spoke flat bottom steering wheel. And in this case, I'm not sure if I want to talk about that right now, but these blacked out wheels, I have some things to say about those in Photoshop. So this new 2024 Traverse ditches the naturally aspirated 3.6 liter V6 for a new turbocharged 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. The inline 4 pumps out a healthy 315 horsepower, which is up by 5 over the V6 thanks to its turbo boost, while torque is up substantially by 51 pound-feet of torque, for a total of 317. You also now have an 8-speed automatic instead of the old 9-speed, and it comes with either front wheel or all-wheel drive. All looks good so far. I'm just wondering, what is the price bump gonna be for this 2024 over the 2021 model? We don't have any pricing for this yet. So the Z71 rides about an inch higher with a slightly wider track, meaning that it's probably pretty planted. This thing. A unique twin clutch all-wheel drive system designed specifically for off-roading comes with this Z71, and it also comes with tough-looking 18-inch wheels wrapped in Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tires. It feels like they actually put in some effort into making the Z71 a pretty decent off-roader with all these extra features that you get included in the Z71. Sales of the 2024 Traverse will begin early next year. As I said, we don't have pricing for it, but the old one started at around $39,000. Maybe for the base, the new one will start around 40 as well. It sounds pretty reasonable for your Chevy Traverse. With that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and let's get into the fun stuff right here. The design of the new Traverse. Compare it from a front, side, rear, and then this interior. Man, this is a decent looking upgrade for the interior. But not only that, let's have a look at the front end. I think Chevy is doing a great job updating their lineup right now. The old one, as you can see up here, I'm not entirely sure what trim this is, but it's clearly not an RS trim because this looks very base. Maybe it's some middle trim level. It is a handsome design. It wasn't a bad looking car. It was just very generic and lacked any sort of identity in the front end. But the graphics are exactly, well, kind of exactly where you want to expect them to be, because this is not a headlight. The headlight still had the position down here in the bumper. So the 2021 Traverse already had the bumper headlights integrated here. But you can see how these lines, these two parallel lines housing this headlight, clashes with everything else, because everything else has an angle to it. So it felt a little static to me in this area. But other than that, it's a good looking design, but it feels a little maybe soccer mom-ish, this SUV. However, that is not the case with the new Traverse RS trim. I mean, just have a look at the confidence of this front end. It feels like they took the Chevy Colorado face, slapped it onto an SUV and called it a day. I do like the front end of the Colorado as well, and I also like all the black trim that we have going on here. We have this bar in the middle, and then you have the blacked out Chevy logo in the center. You can see that the daytime run lights in the previous one, they look very weak. It looks like they're not even lighting up properly. A strong LED. It's lacking some sort of identity up here. They definitely fixed that for the 2024 model. Now we have these daytime run lights up here, which look pretty good, and they do have a lot stronger LEDs in them. As you can see, they're completely white out, but you still have the main headlight being down here. But I actually think I don't mind having a bumper headlight in this case, because I think the integration is better than the previous 2021 model. What I do have some questions about is this area here. So you see these very static looking two parallel lines that has this weird curvature to it in this area. It looks a little funky to me. Maybe it's just the angle, because I think it looks a lot better from this perspective when we see it more from a slanted view. I'm not sure how what I want to change with this. Maybe nothing. I just have to see this in real life, because as always, when you see a car on photos, comparing it to real life, the perception immediately changes. And for me personally, I understand the design better and the designer's intentions when I see the car in 3D right in front of me. So I can't wait to do that with the Traverse. One detail though, one huge difference is, have a look at the hood design. This is gonna show more in the side view, and just how this slopes downwards right here in the hood. However, in the new one, it has this very upright design and a clear cut point from where a clear line where the graphic starts underneath it. And I absolutely love what they did here with the front end design. It looks a lot more confident, a lot more structured and simple than the old design. We also have a big grille here. You can see the RS badge openings in the top lower section of the front end and the top section as well. Beautifully done by Chevy. Now, coming into the side view of the new Traverse, and here you can clearly see this minibus, minivan feel of the old 2021 version. As I said, it still looks good, but it definitely doesn't have this confident SUV look to it. I don't know what it is that makes it feel like a minivan. It's just the overall proportions of the thing. But have a look at this section. Let's start in this area. In the old one, we do have a full body panel stretching up to the roofline up here and creating a bridge between the roof and the rest of the body. In the new one, they added some dynamic feeling into this and created more of a wing with the black trim cutting through. I think this looks a lot more dynamic and interesting to look at. Very beautifully done again by Chevy. And overall, the styling just feels a lot simpler in the new design, even though the old one was pretty simple as well. But I'm talking about the proportions here, and for some reason, I don't know if you agree with me here, but this feels definitely more like an SUV. From a side view, it reminds me a lot of the Ford Explorer, specifically in the RS trim. It looks like a Ford Explorer ST almost, the same type of proportions, which I really like on the Ford as well. We have the roofline dipping down here. with a beautiful, slightly sloping roofline up top, looking very nice. And this is what I'm talking about when I talked about the confident in the front end. Have a look at the angle of the old Traverse dipping down like this and then having a curvature in the front end. There is no curvature in the new Traverse. This is a very stately looking front end, a clean straight line into the A-pillar and then a clean straight vertical line downwards. This corner creates a very boxy, proportionate front end, and I do think that suits the Traverse better than the old minivan proportions up top. Then we have this line in the bodywork. I do like this line as well because it has some unique features to it by it dipping downwards instead of normal traditional going like something like this and then into the bumper in the rear. I also like how the taillights now stretches further into the bodywork than it did here, specifically in this area, going down low, almost like a boomerang shape in the rear and looking fantastic. We also have the headlight now sitting a little bit further up, it looks like. I think that's why I prefer this integration of the headlight, because as you can see, it sits very low here in the previous 2021 Traverse. And we need to talk about these wheels. I'm not sure what spec this is up top. It's probably the very basic spec just based on the wheels here, but the 2022 inch blacked out wheels for the RS model. In this case, this is one of these cars that when everything else is blacked out, the trim around the window, the mirrors, the trim around the wheel arches, the cladding around it, and you also have the blacked out roof rails up here. In this case, I actually think that the black wheels suit this car, and I don't think any other color than black would actually feel very well integrated in the rest of the graphics. So having black wheels here, I also like the wheel design themselves, having these pretty classic looking spoke design like this. It looks really good on the new Traverse RS. Again, well done Chevy. And you also have, I just noticed, this beautiful little chamfer here. Look at this. Chamfers might be doing a comeback. I'm not sure, but it looks like we have a tiny chamfer on this side as well, around this wing up top, looking great. Let's get into the rear view, and this again, it just feels like a good evolution from the previous one. If I had a favorite view of the previous generation, it would definitely be this right here, the 3/4 rear view. I do like this design. It looks clean, and for some reason the minivan proportions kind of fade away when you look at it from a 3/4 rear view, which is weird because usually it's the other way around. When you look at this from this angle, this is where the minivan feel or vibe from SUVs normally comes in from a 3/4 rear view. What I like here is that it kind of evolved these graphics that sticks out up top and in the bottom with the big LED. I do like these LEDs as well. They look pretty clean. So in the new one, they just simplified it. They removed the complexity of the LEDs and instead just stretched one line out this way in line with the shoulder line and the other one going like a boomerang down here into the bumper. And then we have one straight line here, another straight line here, another straight line here. So everything is straight lined and simplified over the previous 2021 model, which again still look pretty simple. But for example, the complexity of the taillights are gone in the new 2024. It looks a lot cleaner in my opinion. I also like that we have the blacked out trim coming back here. The only chrome part seems to be the tailpipes, and that is a pretty common thing when you have this dark themes and black editions of cars. Sometimes manufacturers, or actually a lot of times, they decide to just put the tailpipes and make them the only chrome piece on the entire car. Not sure if I would black these out. I'm not entirely sure if I would do that because tailpipes, their natural finish would be chrome or silver. So it kind of suits the Traverse here. And we also have a little bit a border of chrome right here going around the blacked out Chevy logo that we also have. As you can see, there is just a tiny bit of chrome on this car, and that is the border out around the logo and the tailpipe. So in that case, I would probably just keep them chrome as they are right here. Look at the proportions of this. Doesn't it remind you of the Ford Explorer a lot? I think if you put the proportions of the Ford Explorer right next to this, remove all the graphics, you're gonna have essentially the exact same proportions. Now, last but not least, the interior was in need of an overhaul here. Specifically, I think, not when it comes to technology, technology, but the overall styling, this feels very 2010-ish to have all these lines and these alien-like designs that we have in the 2021 model year for the integration of a infotainment screen. And the steering wheel then looked like something from the 1990s. This definitely needed an upgrade, and that's exactly what Chevy did with the new Traverse. Just have a look at this beautiful interior. So it is a big challenge to have a almost 18-inch screen and have it be integrated in an otherwise pretty organic interior design. And that's where I think Chevy is really crushing it right now with their integrations of the infotainment screen and the gauge cluster, because this feels pretty natural here. 17.7-inch diameter of this screen, and in addition to that, they had the real estate in the 18-inch screen to add, for example, a bar at the lower section to always have the climate control being touchscreens, but they said no, we're gonna do them in physical buttons as well. And it actually looks like they still have this bar at the very low section of the screen, because you can see all the climate control settings being static in the bottom of the screen. So you can choose whether you want to use a touchscreen, or if you're driving and you just want to adjust the climate, the temp real quick, you can do that with these dials right here. So perfect. This is a really good interior by Chevy. And have a look at the steering wheel design. This is exactly what was needed for the steering wheel to bring it into 2024. This looks like a fantastic looking steering wheel with this nice, gorgeous chamfer going around the center. You have some chrome pieces around the buttons, and you have the RS logo down here at the bottom with the flat bottom steering wheel specifically for the RS. Overall, a fantastic update by Chevy, and this is one of these cars that I really want to see in real life, and I can't wait until it reaches dealers here so I can go and check them out and make a proper review of this car.